Hello, I'm Shane Timkwitz with the Iowa Department of Transportation. I'm the Assistant District Engineer in District 3, which is the northwest portion of Iowa. I'm also the co-chair for our Pavement Management Technical Committee that we have with the Iowa DOT. My presentation today is going to be about a different aspect. We're going to go to the organizational side of what we're doing with pavement management and pavements with the Iowa DOT over the last few years, and looking at doing a strategic plan for pavements and adding a pavement unit to the Iowa DOT that's focusing just on the asset of pavements. So we looked at this more as a business sell to our management. We haven't changed anything in the Iowa DOT for 20 years of how we've been set up to do our organization. It's the same structure that we've had before then. We have a pavement engineer who got assets for pavement management thrown underneath him, research, design, all that is piled upon his plate. For our portion of it, we don't have a designated person that does the analytics. We have an analytic department that does DTIMs for us on a part-time basis. We had a preservation engineer, Francis Toddy, who retired this last year, who's been here for years. But with the reorg that we had many years ago, his plate got filled with more and more things. So we had this resource lacking that we had within our department that we needed to try to sell, and that we needed more resources to improve. And so that was our pitch to management, is that there is a huge potential for return on investment. For the state of Iowa, we have an estimate of $21 billion asset for pavements, hundreds of millions of dollars every year being invested. If you can just improve your decision-making and performance by a few percentage points, you can have a huge return on putting an investment into pavements. And that we needed to build on prior successes. We had done well, but we weren't using the information that we collected. That's one thing that we had improved on greatly over those 20 years, is all the analytics and data that we brought in, but we weren't using it to make better investment decisions. So it was really a business case that we needed to sell. And we really wanted to make sure that we performed at a higher level. That's what we were being asked to do through the TAMP process that was going on at a nationwide level. Upper management was wanting to know, hey, where we're going to be, where's the forecast, what can we do differently? We had their attention at this point in time to start having a higher level of conversation with them about what we wanted to do with pavement management and asset management in the Iowa DOT. So we laid out the plan to create a strategic plan as a guide for our vision with the upper management, with the department. This is just a quick snapshot of where we are in Iowa. As I mentioned, $21 billion asset, 23,000 lane miles is the size of what we have. And it's a primary carrier of freight commerce within the DOT. 91% of our critical traffic is on that. So that was a pretty easy sell that's there. One of the other things was the gap that was there. We give to our legislature every year an estimate what we need for pavements. $430 million is our estimate that we need to maintain our pavements. Currently, it's a $203 million investment, so we're at half of what we tell our legislature we need every year to maintain our pavements in the state of Iowa. So we went through this with a plan that we wanted to meet the long-term strategic objectives for our assets. We want to make better investment decisions. We want to be transparent and accountable with that. Currently, we're like a black box inside the DOT. When you do little DTIMs run, you get your output, it goes to some decision makers out in our districts, and poof, all of a sudden projects are put into the program as far as most of the department is concerned. So we want to shine some light on what that decision making was, some transparency there. And we wanted to have a coordinated, flexible approach that supported decision makers just higher than those that currently did. We wanted to actually get those involved from top down within the department to be part of this process. And a year ago, our management rolled out a business plan, think of it as a strategic plan, but they've really switched their tactics to be business and investment orientated. So we needed to speak their language when we went through this process and created the final document. So leveraging the data, it sounds very simple, but sometimes until you show them the difference of an impact, and just at a simple level, 1 mile of interstate reconstruction for us is about 90 miles of preventative maintenance. And people just don't grasp that till you show them. You can show them a DTIM's outputs with all these curves, and we overwhelm them sometimes with that technical aspect. But sometimes a simple fact they can just grab a hold of and understand what the difference is of those investment decisions. So we went through a process that started in 2019, and we tried to get everybody we could involved in this process as we stepped through it. And in 2019, it was just getting those key executives to buy into this process. At the end of 2019, we had a visioning workshop. We had everything from maintenance supervisors to division directors all in one room, asking them what's our strengths and weaknesses with how we do pavement management. We had a consultant that came in there. We collected the input from the whole first day. The second day, we sorted it through with everybody, and we got objectives that we wanted to do. That went into a visioning white paper that we then produced, and then went back to management saying, hey, here's what we think we need to do. We got the okay with that in the early part of 2020. Then we started doing more internal review, digging down the layers of the onion. We did interviews with key staff, got their inputs. We also went outsourcing, and we'll talk about that in a moment. We also went through and did individual interviews with our executive leadership of what they wanted out of pavement management. So when we got to the final document, we knew what they were looking for. The pitch would become easier because we were trying to answer the questions that they had. So we did a SWOT analysis out of that. I'm not going to go through the details of it, but it's really what are those needs and opportunities that are there. We tried to sell the positive. If they make a better investment in the asset management of pavements, that they can get a return on the investment. We also looked at other DOTs that were around us. We did interviews with them, stealing what good ideas we could, look at what their structure was, what level of resources they put in to their asset management, and then we also went through and found out of all that 5 things that we wanted to sell to management. That we need a champion, we need a leader. Every day they walked in, it's that one person that they don't have anything else on their plate but to make pavement asset management better within the department. We needed appropriate staffing that was dedicated to pavement asset management. We needed to change the culture. We have a very dedicated group that's on that pavement management technical committee, but once you get beyond that, and a few people we have in each of our districts, there wasn't a culture that was focused on just pavement management. So we want to have a broad organizational coordination because we wanted to align what our goals and objectives are. We have a whole bunch of different planning documents and studies and thoughts, but there's no one place that tries to pull all that together. And we wanted data transformed into knowledge. So we ended up getting 3 levels into this when we got there. We have a pavement management strategic plan that was developed. It's where we are and where we want to be as far as selling the business plan of decision making. We ended up with a programmatic plan. It's how we're going to get there. There are over 80 action steps in that. And then we're going to be working on a pavement management tactical plan is actually the implementation of those 80 steps. How do we get them done to improve what we do? We aligned what we did with our strategic goals. We had 5 of them. We aligned with 4 of them that we had in our business plan. So we went and sold this to management. We were saying, hey, these actions align directly with what you want to do. And that was an easy sale once we got them talking about that because now they were interested. It's what our director wanted to do. The end result is we're going to start a new pavement management unit within the Iowa DOT. It's focused just on assets. So when we talk about pavements, it's not design, it's not research, it's just working with the asset management aspect of pavements. And they're going to work together with design, the districts, maintenance, construction, on things that are related to asset management and be able to thread those pieces together. What we're looking at, hopefully long-term, is a 6-person unit. We're starting with 3. We are going to have a champion. That position right now is just being created, so this is kind of a real-time conversation. We're going to have a pavement analyst that's in that group to begin with, and we're going to have a pavement preservation engineer for out on the field support side. That'll be the basic unit. We want to eventually grow that and have a GIS analyst. We'd also like to have a more detailed field support engineer to help the maintenance side of the shop, is most of their responsibility. And then we want an innovation person, somebody that doesn't necessarily have to be an engineer, but somebody who can challenge us to do new things, try new things. The other thing that we wanted to work with this is we laid out within that strategic plan is how we're going to lay that to the other plans within the department, because there's a lot of gaps. They're developed independently and they're not threaded together. So overall, when we got done presenting to management, we presented it to our director, our chief operations officer, and our director took it and wrote a letter to our governor saying this is how we're going to implement pavement asset management in the DOT moving forward. Thank you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.